A White House memo just issued this afternoon says that the pause does not affect Medicaid. It already had clarified that it didn't affect Social Security or Medicare. But the Medicaid website portal is experiencing an outage, and the White House press secretary this afternoon was not able to say whether Medicaid would be affected or not. So let's just walk through this because obviously there's confusion. Is this pause going to affect Medicaid?
It does not affect any service that the government is required to provide. Does not affect any entitlement, does not affect any service to citizens, does not affect any individual benefit, any public assistance program or anything of that nature.
Okay, so that's
very glad for the chance to explain
Yeah.
what's going on here. In fact, I could actually give you some backstory I think you'd find very useful, Jake. So we found after the president had issued a pause on funding to NGOs that were settle illegal immigrants, we found that bureaucrats at HHS were trying to funnel billions more dollars to those resettlement agencies and try to get around the executive order. It became clear that bureaucrats were still trying to funnel unapproved discretionary grants of funds to their pet projects. So OMB, led by Russ Vought, felt it was necessary to protect taxpayer resources to issue clearer guidance establishing for these discretionary grants of funding that are not directed by Congress, that they go through a political approval process at the agency.
So let's get into that because a number of government-funded organizations, so these are organizations like Meals on Wheels, right? Their job, their mission, it's a private organization. They get grants from the federal government. They feed seniors. Meals on Wheels is currently in the dark. They don't know, does this order affect us? Does this mean we're not going to have any more funding coming in? They feed like 2 million seniors. So I'm just wondering, first of all, why a pause? An investigation, sure, I get that. Auditing, sure. Why a pause? And what about?
Well, Jake, once you spend money, you can't get it back. So, in other words, if you don't put federal programs under review that are wasteful or harmful to taxpayers, and then people hit send, you wouldn't believe the payments we've had to pause over the last few days with bureaucrats trying to funnel money out of the door, funnel money to the World Health Organization, funnel money to resettlement organizations, funnel money to foreign countries. And so, of course, you have to put a pause on these discretionary grants of funding and have a political review process. In other words, there are people that are accountable to the taxpayer to review. It does not include, the review process does not include any public benefit program. So you mentioned Meals on Wheels. That is a public benefit program. OMB has been clear about this. Jake, we have to get control over this government. You know, I'll just stay on this point about NGOs, non-governmental organizations. Joe Biden gave just one NGO responsible for resettling illegal aliens $3 billion, with a B, $3 billion. President Trump, when he said drain the swamp, he meant it. And yes, so those kinds of spending programs are going to be put under review.
Okay, I don't think anybody's taking issue with if you find money that is being dispersed in an inappropriate way, halting it. I think what the confusion is this seemed to a lot of groups and a lot of states, Republicans, Democrats, independents, like a very sweeping order, and there is confusion. I just want to make sure I understand. So anybody out there that provides school lunches, anybody out there
there's zero impact on public benefit programs, full stop, as OMB has made clear. And I want to really drill down on this, Jake, because it's so important. There's 2 million employees in the federal government. Overwhelmingly, the career federal service in this country is far left wing. I don't know that to be a fact.
Well,
I'll give you a great example. We looked at USAID as an example.
That's
98% of the workforce either donated to Kamala Harris or another left-wing candidate, just as an example.
Okay, but let me just an entire workforce is having a
whoa. Did you just say that saying someone voted for Kamala Harris is demonizing them?
No,
so according
your suggestion is that there's a bias.
No, but you used the word demonizing. You just said that I'm demonizing somebody by saying they voted for Kamala Harris.
Let's get back on track.
But I am on track.
Okay.
Let me stay on track. What I'm saying to you is this. There are 2 million employees in the federal government.
Right.
They're overwhelmingly left of center. The American people, I got to finish the sentence.
Okay.
I got to finish the sentence. The American people voted for dramatic change implemented by Donald Trump. So it is essential for him to get control of government, to establish a whole of government process for Donald Trump's political appointees to review discretionary grants of spending for pet projects that are not directed by Congress. In other words, these are pots of money where Congress hasn't said how to spend it or where to spend it. This might be something like saying, I want to build a $500 million fountain in the courtyard of the Department of Commerce. This might be something like saying, I want to fund gender studies in Afghanistan. There has to be political control and review. I can't help it if left-wing media outlets published a fake news story that caused confusion. If you read the OMB guidance memo, it is, well, if you read the OMB guidance memo,
I don't know what left-wing
it's as clear as day.
We just talked to Congressman Don Bacon, a Republican, a Trump supporter. We just interviewed him. He said that there was a lot of confusion. He said that the executive order
created by the media, Jake. The OMB guidance memo, if you read it, is as clear as day.
It's pretty broad
my point is,
and confusingly written. Parts of it are about DEI, parts of it are all disbursement. It is.
Yeah, DEI is suspended. That is correct.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, it's kind of all over the map, and there is confusion, and it's not just liberal media.
Jake, tell me.
Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said.
You're not understanding what I'm saying.
But
I'm saying that
I want you to address this.
I will, but I'm saying that a false story was put out that people responded to. It's unfortunate that people put out a false story. That's all I'm saying, Jake.
Okay.
That's all
Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski said, quote, nobody really knows how long, unquote, this review of these federal funds is going to last. And she said it's, quote, been a big challenge, unquote, to get answers from the Trump administration. So here's an opportunity. How long is this review going to take? And when does the federal funding for these programs resume?
Well, in the original executive order that addressed NGOs, foreign aid, and other grants, that was a 90-day review process, as you know, Jake. But again, more fundamentally, I think we're missing the big point here. Do you believe, does anyone believe, that an unaccountable, career-tenured bureaucrat should be able to approve vast sums of money for the projects that they personally agree with that no accountable employee in the federal government has reviewed?
I'm literally asking about Meals on Wheels. I mean, you know,
we are.
I don't know what you're talking
Jake, yes,
about.
Jake, you do know what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, as the memo says in black and white letters, no financial benefit programs to Americans are affected. No individual assistance programs are affected. It's there in black and white.
Yeah.
We always knew that the media was going to spin up fake stories to try to create controversy, to try to create scandal. I'm not saying you, Jake. I would never say you. I'm not saying you.
We invited you on to clarify, Stephen, and we just heard
and I'm here.
Right, I know, and I appreciate it. And I want to turn to immigration in 1 second, but I'm just saying, Republican Congressman Don Bacon was hearing from constituents. We have no idea where the constituents were getting their information from. But I will say, last night, when people started noticing this order, people were upset based on the executive order. I was hearing from them directly.
The executive order, Jake, the executive order was issued 7 days ago.
I understand that, but it was going when the word got out.
This is an OMB guidance document.
Right, exactly. And when that went out, people got it. Yes. And you heard Congressman Don Bacon saying he was worried. Yes. Now he's not, but he was worried that before school programs and after school programs in Nebraska were going to be affected.
I am sorry.
But you've clarified
I'm sorry that the media has falsely reported on this story.
I don't know what you're talking about in terms of false reports. Look, it's a broadly written executive order, and there's...
No, you're conflating two different things.
Stephen,
an executive order was issued a week ago. There were some
there was
some bureaucrats in the federal government who tried to push out money, billions of dollars, for wicked and pernicious purposes that had to be frozen. A guidance memo was written. OMB guidance memos are by their nature complicated to read because this involves the federal budget. The choice here is simple. It is very simple, and I want to state it clearly.
Okay.
Either Donald Trump gets political control over this government and ends the waste, abuse, and fraud on the American people, or we let bureaucrats autopilot federal spending. If we hadn't stepped in, then billions more dollars, as an example, would have gone to left-wing NGOs that fund and resettle illegal aliens and are complicit, in many cases, in facilitating child trafficking.
Okay,
so this administration will never, ever apologize for defending the American taxpayer.
Obviously, nobody's in favor of child trafficking. Let's move on to immigration because Obviously, there's been a lot of action when it comes to going after undocumented migrants, undocumented immigrants in this country. Sources say that ICE has been directed to ramp up arrests to at least 75 per field office per day. If every field office hits that quota or that number, that goal, that would be 1,875 undocumented immigrants arrested every day. Now, the Washington Post reports that President Trump has been disappointed with the numbers so far. I don't know if that's true. You will tell me if it is. What is the priority, though, when it comes to these deportations? Is the initial goal, as we had been told by Trump allies after the election, to go after those first, as a priority, to go after those who have committed violent crimes and are part of violent gangs? Or is it we're just going to go after anybody who is in this country illegally? We're not going to prioritize.
Well, yes, we are going to prioritize. So first of all, the numbers you cited are a floor, not a ceiling, very importantly. They're a floor. The goal is to arrest at least that many, but hopefully many more. And the Department of Justice is going to be closely involved in providing the manpower to help achieve those objectives as laid out in the president's executive order. Yes, ICE is absolutely prioritizing terrorist, public safety threats, and national security threats. It is also true that Joe Biden admitted some unknowably large number of millions of illegal immigrants into this country, all of whom are ineligible for asylum, ineligible for any form of immigration relief, are ineligible to remain in the country. So if you look at public polling on this issue, about 70% of Americans think that everybody that Joe Biden let in should be removed. About 80% of Americans agree that all criminal aliens should be removed. That's the baseline of public opinion support.
So you are going to prioritize the violent criminals, though. That's the thing.
Yes, but we're not going to immunize everybody that Joe Biden let in. I mean, let me ask you a hypothetical, and you can treat it as a rhetorical question, not answer it if you don't want to, Jake.
I appreciate it.
Let's say that an illegal alien arrived in the last 3 months of the Biden administration from, say, Peru. He was released. He failed to appear in immigration court. He was issued a final removal order. So, showed up, got released, didn't appear, ordered deported. Been here for 6 months. Is it your position, Jake, that guy should get to stay till the end of his life? I mean, what kind of country can run that way?
Okay.
I mean, no country in the world runs that way.
So let me ask you, President Trump has left the door open to invoking the Insurrection Act, which would allow him to use military forces, U.S. military forces, inside the United States for law enforcement. What would that look like? Are we going to see U.S. troops in American cities arresting undocumented immigrants? Tell us what this is about.
So the Insurrection Act in this context mostly applies to considerations related to the border and the cartel threat. So we've already seen 2 shooting incidences in the last 2 days of suspected cartel violence against Border Patrol agents. President Trump's clampdown and closure of the southern border has disrupted the flow of funds to the most ruthless and dangerous organizations on planet Earth, like the Sinaloa cartel, like the Mexican mafia. These are organizations that are being designated as foreign terrorist organizations, and the president has set the national objective of eradicating their physical presence on U.S. soil. So you should understand considerations about the Insurrection Act in that context.
So
with respect to interior enforcement,
yes,
that's where a program known as 287G comes into play that you're probably familiar with. And that's where we're going to be enrolling state police, local sheriffs, and law enforcement across the nation into federal immigration programs. And that's how we're going to significantly increase the arrest numbers.
But is the Insurrection Act going to possibly be used to use the U.S. military to go after undocumented immigrants in American cities and American towns? Is the door open for that?
Right now, the Insurrection Act, which is still being considered based on operational needs on the southern border, so no decision has been made, is specifically in the context of countering that cartel threat. In the interior, it's going to be about enrolling state and local law enforcement to massively increase the supply of guns and badges to conduct these immigration raids.
All right, so you're not ruling it out, but that's not the plan right now. Let me ask you a question because one of the reasons that President Trump got elected, according to President Trump in an interview, I think it was with Kristen Welker of NBC, was because of grocery prices. Not the only reason, but a reason, high prices, inflation, especially at the grocery. The Department of Agriculture says that between 2020 and 2022, 42% of crop workers were undocumented immigrants. And in many cases, as you know, these migrants do jobs many Americans do not want to do. So how does President Trump make sure that the effort to deport people who are not in this country legally doesn't end up hurting Americans who want safe borders, absolutely, but also don't want to see even more higher prices in groceries?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's not your position, Jake, you're just asking the question, that we should supply America's food with exploitative illegal alien labor. I obviously don't think that's what you're implying. Only 1% of alien workers in the entire country work in agriculture. The top destination for illegal aliens are large cities like New York, like Los Angeles, and small industrial towns, of course, all across the heartland, as we've seen with the Biden floods. None of those illegal aliens are doing farm work. Those 30,000 illegal aliens that Joe Biden dumped into Springfield.
I'm talking about the ones that are.
But I'm explaining this. It's important to understand.
No, you're kind of changing the subject. I mean, I'm talking about the ones.
I will give me 30 minutes. I'll go as deep as you want on this.
We don't have 30
and your
minutes.
Audience.
I don't have a 30. I'm talking about the ones that work in the agriculture industry.
I'm
you
explaining
can come back
to you
and we
your
can
audience.
talk about the ones in the cities. I swear.
I'll do the whole answer. The illegal aliens that Joe Biden brought into our country are not full stop doing farm work. They are not. The illegal aliens he brought in from Venezuela, from Haiti, from Nicaragua, they are not doing farm work. They are in our cities collecting welfare. As for the farmers, there is a guest worker program that President Trump supports. Over time as well, we will transition into automation, so we'll never have to have this conversation ever again. But there's no universe in which this nation is going to allow the previous president to flood our nation with millions and millions of illegal aliens who just get to stay here. And we are especially not going to allow a subset of those illegal aliens to rape and murder our citizens. So we are going to unapologetically enforce our immigration laws, and as I'm sure you will celebrate, we are going to unleash the power and might of the U.S. government to eradicate the presence of transnational threats on our soil.